O mundo precisa de gente que pulsa,
que coloca a mão na massa e faz a diferença,
que encara a adversidade e constrói soluções, que colabora para encontrar novos caminhos. Porque quando pulsa a vontade de criar, a obstinação de realizar e o desejo de conquistar, criamos novas oportunidades.
Descobrimos novas formas de superar desafios, e é isso que nos faz evoluir.
Em cada um de nós, pulsa a vontade de fazer. E juntos, fazemos. Pulsamos transformação. Nascemos do desejo de ir além.
Da necessidade de empreender e desenhar nosso próprio futuro.
Compartilhamos ideias e mudamos relações e culturas. Criamos o novo. Crescemos, evoluímos e não paramos de pulsar inovação. É assim que vamos continuar fazendo uma marca inspiradora. Porque somos a IMED.
Somos emoção,
vibração,
energia,
ação,
movimento,
participação,
transformação, sentido,
sentimento,
colaboração,
oportunidades, crescimento, liderança, pertencimento, revolução, inspiração,
sensibilidade.
Pulsamos juntos.
E estamos sempre apenas começando. Afinal, é preciso inspirar a mudança.
Porque viemos e vivemos para fazer.
IMED, pulse para transformar.
Hoje, trabalhei com o Philippe no doutorado e no pós-doutorado. É a segunda vez que ele vem ao Brasil. Ele é um professor de Sociologia Econômica, bastante conhecido na Europa, também nos Estados Unidos. E tem pesquisado muitos temas. Um deles que eu particularmente dediquei uma parte dos meus estudos, que são os mercados contestados. Quem faz Sociologia Econômica comigo sofre um pouco com isso, né? Mas são temas muito agradáveis e muito importantes no contexto brasileiro. Mas o Philippe também inova bastante, e o tema que ele vai trazer hoje é o tema que ele está testando pela primeira vez. Toda a agenda de pesquisa dele vai testar aqui. Então, é um privilégio, de certa forma, olharmos para um tema novo para a gente. É um tema que, a gente conversava com os alunos, a gente não consegue textos ainda sobre esse tema. Mas o modelo francês é um pouco diferente, eu gosto bastante porque eles não ficam a vida inteira atrelados a um tema. Eles pesquisam temas que são relevantes, que eles acham que são importantes. E por isso, tê-lo aqui nesse dia, embora o tema seja também novo para nós, é um privilégio. Ele vai falar por 45 minutos, vocês vão acompanhar, e depois a gente abre para discussão, fiquem à vontade. Agradecer também muito a presença da professora Elaine e da professora Maria Luísa, de Porto Alegre. A Maria Luísa é PNPD, né? E a Elaine é a coordenadora do PPGA de Sociologia da Federal de Pelotas. Uma longa viagem, né? E, enfim, é um prazer. Os meus colegas professores, o Carlos, o Vitor, o Dudu, estão aqui, as turmas. Bem legal. Acho que a gente tem que fazer uma tarde de dezembro, né? Para conversarmos sobre temas que são relevantes. A Magela, que passou na Federal de Santa Catarina. A Giana está. A Giana está. Exatamente. Cíntia, ex-alunos, enfim, não vou nomear todos, mas é muito legal receber vocês. A ideia é de fato, criarmos esse ambiente permanente. Tá? Sem mais delongas, o professor vai falar em inglês. Jason também tem que falar, nosso professor de hoje à noite, né? Também nosso bolsista do PNPD. Márcio, etc. E tal. Tá. Daqui a pouco vocês se apresentam, né? Philippe, merci. Nous sommes très heureux de vous recevoir. Bonne conférence.
So, thanks so much for this possibility to make a presentation of my new topic of research. And as Jean-Dir said, this is obviously something which is important for the development of my research and ideas. And in certain respect, it is as well a challenge, because when I've begun to work on that direction, I have soon understood that the main part of the literature on the sociology of festivities comes from Brazil, because obviously, as you know, there is a huge tradition of festivities and study of that event. So I will try to meet your high demand on this respect, and in order to make it clear, my starting point was given by, I would say, some old, or let's say, classical approach in sociology, and basically it is a French sociologist, Émile Durkheim and Marcel Mauss, who in the beginning of the previous century began to study that issue of festivity. And they were alone among the classic sociologists to do that. However, the main element, the main idea that they put forward was the idea of a big divide between festivities and the daily life and economic life of the people. And I think that in our modern world, this doesn't work. So Durkheim is not very useful in certain respect, even if in the end I will explain why I use some of his ideas. And there are two main reasons for which I think that their ideas are not fully relevant. The first is the fact that there are many people working during festivities. So you cannot make a big divide between festivity on one side and working activity on the other. So this is something that we should have in mind at the starting point. And second, festivities nowadays are maybe for free. I mean, for the people, the festivity goers. But for those who are organizing the festivities, it's costly. So there is as well something to be done on this idea. So the goal, in certain respect, is obviously to follow this idea that festivities and work and finance are still going together. And then beyond that, to explain how culture and the economy can go hands to hands, because in that case, we cannot say that they are falling apart. So I will present first some, this is a plan of the presentation. The first part will be, I would say, purely descriptive, because I have thought that most of you do not know what the Basque country is, what Bayonne city is, and so on and so forth. So I think it was necessary to give a broad idea. And then, second part, festivities as a social fact. It is a way to build, in certain respect, a research, a sociological research on this idea of festivity. The main idea, and I will develop that in the third part, is the fact that the festive crowd is a key element for understanding and studying the festivities. And then I will explain how I propose to study this festive crowd through a series of questions about the production of the crowd, the distribution of the crowd over the city, the consumption of the crowd, and finally, the unmaking of the crowd so that the city can be cleared after the festivities. And then I will try to provide some conclusive comments. So first part about the morphological dimension, what is a Basque country and what is the city of Bayonne. So you have here a map on the left side of the slide, a map in which in red, there, it It is a political frontier between Spain in the south and France in the north. So the Basque country is a part, is in certain respect divided into two parts. There is the northern part, the northern part here in France with three separate elements, Labour, Basse-Navarre and Soule. And then you have the southern part, Egoalde, the northern part is Iparralde in Basque, and this area is united by a same language and in certain respect a same culture. And this is a very strong element of local life. So this is the first element. I will come back to that maybe later, and maybe I will answer some of your questions. Then I have supposed that it was necessary to explain that Bayonne city here looks like this. You have here the smaller part, which is called Petit Bayonne, small Bayonne city. And here you have the larger part, which is Grand Bayonne, the biggest part of the city, with the cathedral there, and there you have the town hall. And finally, there is a third part here, which is the other side of the river, and then after the river, here you have the sea, the ocean, Atlantic Ocean. So the city is not exactly on the beach, but very close to that. It's in the south of France, so the weather is rather fine, and the festivities occur at the end of July, that is to say in summertime, and the weather is usually hot, maybe wet, because it's raining a lot in that part of France, but usually the weather is fine. So this is a geographical dimension, so to speak. Second, I'm not here to promote the city, you understand it, I presume. But nevertheless, the Basque country has a specific forms for houses and colors. Notably, this red color is called Basque red. This is specific color in the country. And you have these houses with pieces of wood on the front, which is very specific, and this is maybe one of the most beautiful house in the city. I stress that point because even for people from the surrounding cities and villages, this is a very specific environment. And the mayor from, let's say, the last 50 years have reluctantly and very strongly pushed in order to make the city a nice city. And I think this is an important aspect as well for explaining the enjoyment that the one going to the festivities can feel because of the nice city, nice surrounding, with two rivers in the middle, which give some kind of fresh image of and fresh atmosphere, and this is enjoyable for most of the people. Okay, so some characteristic that should be explained at the outset, notably to make a difference with Carnival here in Brazil. The first point that I would like to stress is the fact that the festivity occurs in the streets. Nothing happens in a building. Everything is outside. And this is a very important element, and this is not so common in France to have this. Second, this is beyond the fact that it is in the streets. This is what I will call a walking festivity, in the sense that people are moving all around every time. And this is grounded on what is called, sorry, I'm not easy. Okay, sorry. And this is what is called in Basque language, poteo. Poteo means that you enter a bar, you have one of them who have a coach, that is say they have the money, they pay for everybody. So you enter, you ask for a drink and some food, pinchos, this is the name in Basque again, some food, just one or two pieces of food, not much. And then after that, you move to a second bar and the third one and so on and so forth. So this is a walking festivity in which people are moving all the time. And this gives obviously some specificity to this festivity. Second, and this is as well very important, and I will explain why it happened that way, there is no religious, no historical, no political underpinnings. Nothing of that. And the festivity, this is the third point, the festivity was created in order to boost the economy. So you understand better why I said that the Durkheimian approach was not relevant. And this is certainly very different from most of the festivities, because usually, and this is the case with Carnival, Carnival means there is a kind of religious background. This is not the case in this festivity, and basically it is end of July. End of July had nothing to do with Carnival. Okay. 4, there is no racial or social divide. And this is again something maybe surprising, but this is something important. No racial divide as can appear here. You know, so I think there's no problem to state that loudly. There is no divide between black and white people. There is no divide between the Carnival in the south of Brazil and Carnival in Nordeste, which is completely different. And nevertheless, there is an ongoing political problem, which is not a racial one, nor a social one, but a political problem with Basque activists, who are very important in the city because the south has some autonomy which is not allowed to, which is not provided to the northern part. So there were, and there are still, some problem with Basque activists. This is the kind of divide that we can find in this place. 5, cultural events are grounded on local culture. So this is the reason why I've put these two photographs. There you have a band of people from the country playing chistu, this kind of flute, and they have as well a kind of tuntun. This is in order to give the rhythm. So we have this kind of specificity. There is as well a lot of people singing. This is a specific mark of the cultural activities. Then you have here these choir of Basque people singing Basque songs. And there is as well, there is no picture, specific dances such as fandango and mochico. So the last point that I would like to stress again is the fact that there is no special event, no star making the event very appealing for interesting for the audience. There is no such thing. These are, I would say, local singers. These are local singers, and most of them are fully unknown, even from the people, the inhabitants of the city. That is to say, there is no star, no specific event beyond the festivity itself. Okay, so just a kind of flashback, so to speak, in order to mention the fact that the festivity was created by a specific guy, Benjamin Gomez, who was a Jewish architect, very well introduced in the political and economical life of the city, and he proposed to create this new festivity, completely new one, because there was, at that time, an economic crisis. That was the beginning of the 1925 crisis that was coming into France, into the southern part of France, and as well, it was very clear that time was come to enjoyment after World War one, because many people at that time were in the trenches and most of them lost their life, so it was difficult to create a new festivity with this memory of so many young guys killed during the war. So, during his declaration in the town hall community, he said, this is the quotation at the back of this slide. Do not forget, he said, that festivities, which are the smiles of the cities, are always beneficial to trade. The money spent during the festivity remain almost entirely in the city. It enters the coffers of our merchants. The foreign contribution that a wise publicity and the unfailing reputation of the Bayonne festivities will bring can be considered as a happy supplement. So you understand that this festivity is in no way opposed to commercial activity, to commercial problems. So this is again important because you can understand that there is no outcry in the city about the so-called commercialization of festivities. There's no such problem because at the outset, commercialization was fully a part of the festivity itself. And in order to make that clear, I've put a picture of 3 flyers that were used to announce the festivities just after World War II, and you will see that at the bottom of the flyer there is something embradera. That means in French, we will make sales. That will be the moment in which a merchant will sail. You will get nice prices for the goods that you want to buy. So again, this mention of the commercial dimension fully part of the festivities. And this is still the case because nowadays the first 2 days of the festivity is about sale. So again, the commercial world is fully part of the festivity. So, after this general presentation of the festivity that I am studying, I would like now to stress the way I suggest to studying that point. These are 2 pictures that I have done myself. The first one is close to the nice building that I've showed you a few minutes ago, and you have this large crowd going up this street, Rue Poissonnerie, the street for fishermen, and this is a picture of the street, which is at the bottom of my own flat. So you can see that there is a huge amount of people gathering in the street, having fun, drinking, laughing, discussing, and so on. So my point, as I said earlier, the festive crowd is the key character for understanding, for studying festivity. This is my proposal. So, in order again to give a larger assessment of that idea, I have used 2 modern flyers, 2006, 2007, and there 2009. Flyers for announcing the festivity of the year, and you see that in each of these 3 cases, notably this one, the crowd is at the center of the representation of the festivity. So I just put this point in order to make you sure that when I say the festive crowd is at the heart of the festivity, it's not only a point of view of the researcher. This is as well a point of view which is spread over the population by the administration. Okay, and once this point is taken into account, I would suggest that we need to study the structure of the crowd, the social structure of the crowd, and then these 4 questions about production, distribution, consumption, and making of the crowd. So, in order to be a bit more specific, production means how the crowd becomes a reality in the city, then how the crowd is spread over the city, and so on. So we are, in certain respect, ready to begin the point, the study. In terms of the economical aspect of this study, I come back to the past, and initially, before World War II, the financing of the festivity was made thanks to 3 kinds of contribution. First, the commercial world itself give money to the organization of the festivity. And 1/3 of the money came from people in restaurant, in bar, hotel, give to the organization because they knew that they will benefit from the existence of the festivity. Then the part of the taxes was used by the municipality to funding the festivity, and then there were as well at that time a demand addressed to the public itself in order to give money in order to make the festivity more enjoyable. That was the past. Now we have the costs which are mainly on the shoulders of the municipality, and the overall cost is not comma but point, dot, sorry. This is the French way to writing that. But anyway, I think that you will understand. This is 2.4 million euros, the full cost, or at least the full cost as calculated. Then they got a revenue from the festivity, which is 0.65 million euros. And recently they introduced a fee. I will come back to that later. So the net cost for the municipality is about 1 million euro, which is not so much, because obviously 1 million is a large figure, but this is not very much because the general budget of the town hall is about 110 million euros. So this is less than 1% of the taxes that the municipality receives, which is not that much. And if we make a comparison, which I did, in 1932, it was already 1% of the money that was available to the municipality. So on the long run, in percentage, the cost of the festivity is more or less the same. So this is something that we should know in order to understand the financing aspect of that. Now, if we try to open up our views in terms of what is meant by the economy of festivity, my starting point is here what is called a Polanyian approach. Karl Polanyi, of course, Karl Polanyi approach to the economy. And my claim following Polanyi is the fact that economy should be understood according to 3 dimensions. The first one, obviously, is what Polanyi called redistribution, and it comes from the taxes that the municipality can get through this authority it represents. Second part of the economy, it is association, what was called reciprocity by Polanyi, and this is mainly fleshed out by these musicians, bandas, and this association, I will come back to that, which is called, according to the Spanish word, peñas. And finally, there is as well the market economy with restaurants and bars. And my guess, again, is to think that we should take into account these 3 dimensions of the economy in order to make sense of this economic dimension of the festivity. And by the way, we should as well add to this dimension, these three dimensions, the fact that there are tensions, disagreements between the three main dimensions of the economy. Municipality, for example, has big problem with bar and restaurant about lavatories, bañero, as you say. Yeah? No, this is not a joke. This is very important. I will come to that later. It was a surprise for me, but this is a huge, very important question for the organization. Then there was a problem, of course, between municipalities and peñas about the creation of fees, because there is a political view which is completely different between the two elements. And then there were, as well, there are still tension, disagreement between bars and restaurants and peñas about closing hours and about taxes, because peñas are allowed to sell alcohol without paying taxes, whereas bar and restaurant sell alcohol, but they pay taxes. So they are considering that this is an unfair competition between both of them. So this is the main lines for understanding the economic dimension of the festivity. So after this general approach, let's come to the key point, the festive crowd and the city. So our first work was to make an understanding of the social structure of the crowd. As it came a surprise for me when I began to do this work, to notice the fact that the festive crowd is generally never studied as an entity in which there are subgroups. Mainly, the people are considering that we have here, during the festivity, a very large number of people. The cumulative number of people going to the festivity is about 1 million people, which is not so much for your country. But in the city of Bayonne is only 60,000 people. So 1 million people in the city, a part of the city, means a huge amount of people. So the idea that there is a huge crowd can be understood for this reason. And basically, this is as well an important point, the maximum number of people at a given point of time is equal to twice the size of the population on 10% of the surface of the city. So you understand why in the street there's such a huge crowd, and this is very important. So what is the social structure of the crowd? If we go back to the literature on this point, crowd means people alone, people without any kind of social support or social group around them. And this crowd is often synonymous of single individuals behaving in non-rational way and losing self-control and civility. This is completely irrelevant for the festive crowd. We did a questionnaire, and we received from these very large number of people a few number of answers, but it is about 4,000 answers, which is not much compared to 1 million people, but this is a significant number. And out of these answers, we did some statistical work, and the result is very clear. People are coming to festivity either in small groups, 3 to 5 persons, or in big groups, 6 persons and more. Maybe some of them are more than 20 people. And these two ways to come to festivity represent almost 90% of the population of the festive crowd. And beyond that, 8% are people coming with their friend, their wife or husband, and only 2% of the population are alone. So the idea that the crowd is made by singles doesn't work. And we should consider the fact that these people are coming with a smaller group, and this is something which is both a resource and a problem. A problem because misbehavior can be caused by the ambience, the atmosphere within the group. Sometimes people are encouraging others to misbehave, to do silly things. But at the same token, this is as well a resource for the organization, because that means, and I have observed this kind of behavior during the festivity, when, let's say, one member of the group has drunk too much, things like that happen, as you know. And in that case, if that person was alone, that would be a real problem, a security for him or her, and a security for the whole festivity. Instead of that, because they are a member of a group, it is very common to see that one person of the group is supported by the other, in order to not to make him alone on the street, and they used to bring back that person to home, or even to bring back that person to some specific area for people who are tied. And in French, the name is Chateau Margaux. Chateau Margaux is a big name in Bordeaux industry of wine. Chateau Margaux is a tent in which drunk people are left there in order to refresh their mind before coming back home. So in that case, the member of the group, in order to go on their festivities with their mind clear, bring the people who have drunk too much there, they leave them, and they know that they will be taken care of. So this social dimension is important in order to understand. Second, again, the crowd is located in a very small area of the city. These two lungs, so to speak, sorry. Oh my God. Okay, here we are. The two lungs of the city, the smaller part, the larger part of Bayonne. These two lungs are with street with very tightened crowd, 4 square meters, the pink area with 3 and green with only 2 by square meter. So this part of the city is really packed by the people. And in order to answer the demand, okay, you have the peñas here. Peñas are men's club organized around gastronomy and choir. They are singing groups, as I showed in a previous slide. And these peñas are located in this part of the city, two main parts in which a lot of peñas are gathering, and these peñas are offering food and alcohol to, from time to time as well, water, alcohol to the festivity goers. And beyond that, we have as well a large number, so you have the size of the number of the bar in various parts of these two lungs, and there is 215 bars open on this small area during the festivities, which means that there is an imbalance of bars and restaurants in the city, because they do a lot of money during the festivity, which permit them to go on during the remaining part of the year. So after this third element about how to explain the festivity, how to make a study, I will come back to the fourth part, and to understand the kind of interaction between the city itself and the crowd. And according to my observation, there is a clear divide within the city. We are here in the older part of the so-called lungs. This is Petit Bayonne here. And when you have a bar, they create a kind of device in order to increase the number of meters in which the drinker can be offered a drink. And this avoid the kind of bottleneck that could be created if people should enter the bar and go out of the bar, because the doors are too small. That will create a bottleneck, and instead of that, a client, the one who wants to drink, can get outside and they can get a larger space in order to ask for a drink. So you have another one there. So this is a way to welcome the crowd. But on the other side, the opposite view is created here by these pieces of wood were put just in front of the shops in order to protect the shops from the huge number of people, because some of them, before that, some of these windows were broken because of the push of the number of people, which was very strong at that time. So the city is completely changed in its general form, general view, because of these two things: welcoming the crowd and protection against the crowd. And obviously, this is something that should be mentioned. There is, because of this larger crowd, a big issue with the problem of security. And this big issue became bigger when there was, in July 2016, a mass murder during a kind of festivity in the east-south of France, in the city of Nice. Because at that time, a man endorsing the Al-Qaeda view created a mass murder with a lorry entering the crowd, which was horrific, obviously. So that year, the festivities were in jeopardy, and the mayor has to decide, less than 10 days after the mass murder in Nice, whether or not to open the festivity. In the end, he decided that, okay, we will open it. But there is a backlash to that. The security rules must be tightened. You should afford to higher cost for security, because if not, the mayor would be responsible of any problem related to this lack of security. So I have been happy enough to get from the town hall data for the last 5 years. I don't have the data of this year. I will get it, I presume, in January or February, but you can see very easily that from the period of, there is a break here, between 2015 and 2016, there is a huge amount of money which was put on security cost, with a rise of 23%. Then the following year, one more 5% for security, and then again a jump of almost 17% in security. Security costs are becoming a huge problem for the town hall. Obviously, I will not enter into the detail. The sociologists should be cautious when using this data, because obviously we could ask how to explain this huge raise in cost 2 years after the Nice mass murder. And one explanation of this huge increase of cost is the fact that the town hall, the mayor, decided to put the cost of the fee that was created that year as a security cost, which doesn't work, which is not exactly the same thing, but it is a way to make these security costs higher in order to get the approval from the constituency of the inhabitants. Second point about this security is the fact that in order to cover the cost, the rising cost of the security, the mayor decided to make a very unusual move, asking the people going to the festivity to pay for entering the festivity. Until that year, in 2018, last year, the possibility to go to the festivity was without any fee. You can enter, go back, and no problem. You don't have to pay anything. But in order to cover the rise in the security cost, the mayor decided to ask €8 for going to the festivity during the weekend. €8 is not so much for most of the people. But the decision was a very tough one, because for most of the old people, going to the festivity is something that you go for free. So many people react very negatively for that. Nevertheless, to the surprise of many people in the city, that was accepted without many problems. And the reason is very easily understood. The younger generation, that is to say the people between 18 and 24, accept the idea of paying without no problem. I will explain the data then after. And the main reason is the following. When they are going to a music festival, it is quite common for them to pay for, let's say, 2 days, €300, which is a significant cost. So, paying €8 for going to the Basque festivity, they don't care. This is not so much. And so, in the questionnaire, in the survey that we sent, and with the 4,000 answers that I mentioned then after, we can see that for the young generation, the price is correct for almost half of them. And these, the number of people thinking the same way is decreasing with age. 45, 39, 37, then a third, 44, and for the old one, 37. That means that for the younger, it is non-problematic to pay. And the older the people are, the less they think that way. The same, only 46% of these young people think that the price is too high. And the other 47, 52, 51, then, and again, with a drop with older people, then you have these people who are certainly more wealthy than this one, but they think that the price is too high again. So this explains why this idea of the fees was accepted so easily instead of making some political problem to the mayor. So second element after the production, the issue of distribution. Then I have put here two pictures of the festivity, and you can see, you can see that here the crowd is less packed, and you have small number, 2 men there, a small group here, a larger group of young women there, and here you have group discussing, moving all around, and this is the way, this is why I said that it is a walking festivity. Oh my God. These people are moving from, this is a very famous bar here, but I will not enter into the details again, and people are moving, and this is one of the specificity of this festivity. And in order to explain again why there is this moving festivity, I didn't translate the sentences because not very useful. It is the place. Yeah, this is a place for playing. What is the name of that? When you play. In Spanish, it is pelota. You play. bola. Okay, we say bola, and as well it could be chistera with a big glove, very specific Basque game, but I don't know what is the name in pelota basca. Okay. So it is just a way to make you understand that if there is a distribution of the crowd over the city, this is not by chance. Obviously, people are moving by themselves, but they are moving because, as you can see, let's say, if we consider the morning, the activities, events in the morning, then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different events in the morning, so that people are obliged to move, or they are they are induced to move because there are so many things happening in the city. And this is made on purpose by the organization in order to avoid that a huge number of people will converge in a given point of the city, blocking everything. So there is this kind of organization in order to make people move, and by the same token, you have as well sport events, you have dancing events, you have music events, in order to avoid people to be staying in bar and restaurant and drinking too much alcohol. So they make a mix between sport event, music event, and time for having food and drinks. And by the way, the former further element, I have put in gray the Basque cultural events, and you see that the culture element from the Basque country, and Sierotchiki is something with a bull, but a fake bull for the kids, and then Toreo again for this kind of pleasure. So there are many events which are grounded on the cultural dimension of the Basque country, which make something very interesting for many people coming from other parts of France. So that explains again why people are making such a huge crowd, because of this interest. Then the distribution of the crowd is not only a geographical distribution, but it is a day and night distribution, which is of the utmost importance for the organization. Because from the middle of the 90s onward, the organization committee tried to give much strength to the day festivity. And for that, they create a grotesque character, the so-called King Leon, not lion, Leon, who symbolizes the pleasure of the festivity offered by the city to the visitors. And the organizing committee has a balanced view of the night festivity, because they fear the unregulated behavior of heavy drunker people, and notably the young one. So I must tell you that at 3 o'clock in the morning, when you enter a part of the Petit Bayonne in which all the young people are gathering, last time when I went to the festivity, I said, no, Philippe, you have to go back. Because for most of them, I was a grandfather. And I was obviously not in the right place at the right moment. So this is so young, so they were very active and very much drunk. So this is very special part of the festivity. And again, we understand we can objectivize, so to speak, the fear of the organization, because we made a logistic regression grounded on our answers, and it is quite interesting to know what are the reason why people are more likely to go into the night than into the day. So people in big groups and people alone are more likely to go to the night, but it's a group of friends, not family groups, or groups of colleagues. So the group of friends, those who are drinking or eating before, and those who are going to other festivities, that is to say people who are really enjoying festivities. Those coming from Paris as well, because they come from far away, and those who appreciate to be in the middle of the crowd, those who appreciate the ambience of their group, and those who qualify themselves, their behavior are orgiastic. I should say these people are going in the night because they know that they can do things that can be done during the day. So the reason why the organization committee is a bit and pleased by what happened during the night. And for the same reason, this logistic regression gives us some indication why people don't go during the night. Groups of colleagues, because I presume that with a friend we can do a silly thing, but with colleagues maybe a bit different. Couples, of course, older people from 25, and then those who come from nearby cities. Okay. Then consumption. So we have here consumption before in front of a bar. Then this is a special event, which is the World Championship of omelette, a specific omelette of the country, which is very enjoyable. It is on the beginning at the moment of almorzar, and so people are pleased to go there and they taste, and there is a champion each year, and so on and so forth. So we have this kind of nice activity in order to provide a taste of the gastronomic culture of the place, and to offer to the festivity goers some pleasant food. Obviously, the creation of the festivity is a boon for the bars and restaurants. I have made some interviews with some of them, complex affair, but maybe I will come back to that later. And one of them told me, he's a cook in the restaurant, he told me that during the festivities, there are 9 persons working in the kitchen of the restaurant, whereas the rest of the year is alone. So that means that 9 times more people active in the kitchen in order to give food to the people in the festivities. So he explained to me that he's making 40% of the yearly cash flow during 5 days, which you can understand the importance of the festivity for the economy of the city, and the imbalance that was created in favor of bar and restaurant because of this kind of festivity. Then, nevertheless, I have as well made some interviews, and notably of these young women, interviews of people who are waiters during the festivities, those who are working during the festivities. And they told me that working during a festivity is something very enjoyable. Obviously, this is very demanding because the festivity, the opening hours of this bar for the festivity is from 10 in the morning until 3 in the morning, that is to say, 17 hours of opening. So it's very demanding, even if there is 2 teams, very demanding, notably for the one working during the night. Nevertheless, and this is a picture that it is 2 o'clock in the morning, and the waiters, these 2 women, are on the, what is the name of that? On the, they are, the place where you put the glasses on the bar. Yeah, on the table, yeah, thanks. Not exactly the table, but anyway, they are on the table, and they are playing with, they are dancing and sending some goodies to the audience there. So even for them, and I pick up this picture in order to give some empirical data through this picture, this is an enjoyment for them as well. So working activity and enjoyment are put together in certain respect, and the clear divide again that was at the starting point of Durkheim and Mauss doesn't work. The same should be said for peñas, the association making money as well during the festivities, and this money is going in their pocket in order to finance their activities the rest of the year. So during the year, they provide events for free for the inhabitants as a give back in certain respect, or they give some money to charity association. So this economic dimension and this in between work and pleasure is at work as well with this person. So we are close to the end, and I come back to the issue of the festive crowd and the deregulation of people's behavior. And the main culprit of this deregulation is here, the continent, the beer, which is, how do you call that? Kegs, okay. In which beer is poured and then sold to the crowd. And due to this large alcohol, and there is a problem, and I come back to what I said, we did as well in our survey, we put a question about, sorry for that, people peeing in the streets. I must admit that in the beginning, I never thought that I had to go into this kind of details, notably for economic sociology. But nevertheless, when we enter the debate with the organization, this is a huge, huge, huge problem. And we can try to understand this going through this issue when you notice that the number of people answering that they have a negative feeling about people being in the street is not very strong for the young one, notably the young men. Only 24% or 32% of these people think this is not something that should be done. That means that a large number of them are doing that way. And we can understand as well through this what I call civilization ratio. Civilization means that you don't pee in the street, and the reverse. And the civilization ratio is much stronger for women, even the younger, 43% against 23. And so this is the ratio. And the ratio is going down with the age. That means that women are more civilized than men, but the ratio is going back with the age. And if we go through a comparison between 18 years old and older one, 45 and 54, then the ratio for men is stronger than for women, and again here. So there is a strong gender cleavage and age cleavage about this behavior. But if you go and if you have a look at the festivity, many people are doing in the streets. So this is a surprising thing. And this is not only a question of civilization, because it is related as well to the issue of cleaning the streets after the end of the day and night festivity. So you have here two cars cleaning a part of the street, and the last people going to the festivities going back home. Then they are cleaning with water and specific chemicals the street, so that the people coming back tomorrow morning, the morning later, will not be aggressed by smelling and so on and so forth. So that issue is very, very important. And by the end, by the way, after the cleaning, then you have a large set of people providing new cask of beer for the restaurant and bar in order to begin again to sell everything the following day. So this is the last element for this study of the crowd and the relation to the city. After the festivity, something should be cleaned and the stock should be reconstituted. Conclusion. Obviously, I will try to make my point with the idea that the crowd is a key element of the understanding of the festivity. However, I would like to come back to Durkheim's point of view. If we consider that the key element is the crowd, what is so specific to this, to the existence of a crowd? And following a Durkheimian approach, my suggestion is to say that the crowd creates what I call the ambience, a nice, enjoyable atmosphere. The same if you have a Durkheimian approach in mind, when there is a crowd, then the idea of ideal, the idea of divinity, of God is created according to Durkheim. There is no such question here. But I think that the large number of people in the street are creating something which is unique, a festive ambience, a festive atmosphere in the city. And the basis of that is the fact that people are in the streets. They are outside. This is not a festivity which is in the house, in any building. They are outside. And they enjoy seeing the other people enjoying themselves. This is kind of communication of enjoyment. Then you have as well something which is very important, and you understand that immediately when you enter the festivity, there is a huge noise, barulho, as you said here, a huge noise all the time, all the day long, from 9 o'clock in the beginning with gaiteros and chistu until 4 or 5 o'clock in the end when the peñas are closing their music. There is a huge noise of music, of people shouting, of people laughing, of people discussing, and so on and so forth. And this makes your ear full of noise all the day all the day long. Then people are obliged to move within a crowded street. So they are obliged to be in touch each other, which is completely different from the way we behave in a city. Generally, we don't touch people. We try to go in a different way, not to confront your body to the body of the other. This is impossible during the festivity. And people, in certain respect, are enjoying that. I have seen older people, maybe 70 or 75 people older than me, having fun, making a kind of a way through this crowd as a way to have fun during the festivities. Then you have as well two other senses, the smell and taste, which are provided by the cooking of food, the food that people eat, what they drink, and these explain that each sense is mobilized, is at work, and all these senses are providing this part of this enjoyment and ambiance. People meet old friends during the event, or they build new friendship, whatever the duration, maybe just one night, but it could be a longer friendship. And I would end up this long presentation in order to say that my wish, in certain respect, is to end by providing something that I would call a sociology of joy. Because usually when it comes to feeling, the sociology of feeling is the sociology of negative feeling. The fact that you have to suffer some specific behavior, as Oshide has studied, or the negative feeling related to domination, and so on and so forth. I think that in the case of this event, the sociology of feeling should be a sociology of joy. And I think that it could be maybe an interesting addition to general sociology and not to economic sociology itself. Thanks so much for your patience and your attention.
Pessoal, alguém tem alguma pergunta? Aí eu passo o microfone, vocês podem fazer a pergunta no microfone, que fica mais fácil por causa da transmissão.
Thanks for the talk, Felipe. It was a pleasure to be here. So I have one question. It's much more like a doubt. So there's a classic study in the marketing science that talks about the Burning Man Festival in California, in the desert of California. So they discuss about the transition of the meaning of the festival that started as a countercultural stuff, we are against the market, we are against the regular economy, so we are gonna only exchange goods and things. So the transition started when they started to make their own brands, for example. I'm Eduardo, I'm going over there and I wanna sell my brand, sell. And this festivity looks like that always also had a transition of the meaning. Like it started as a festivity to forget about the crisis and everything, and nowadays it's all about the economy. Looks like the economy is setting the pace of the festivity. So how do you see this transition of the meaning of the festivity, and if you see this?
Actually, I don't think that there is a huge economic transition during the festivities. From the beginning to the present, when I discuss with the organization, when I listen to how the people going to the festivity react, this economical or commercialization is not a problem for them. It is not something which is put on the forefront. Let me explain. I have read some work by a colleague of yours from Bahia University, studying the Carnival in Bahia. And he stressed the point that it is Miguel. I don't remember the first name, but anyway, he said that when the trio electrico was created, that is to say, you can put music thanks to amplification in the street, it was the beginning of big change and the beginning of the commercialization of the festivities. There is no such thing in the case of Bayonne. The issue of commercialization is not an issue. This is maybe a surprise. So maybe you could say, okay, that's really surprising, and I will agree with you. But I think that the full answer would be the following. The debate, so to speak, is not this one because there is another debate which was more important. And the debate was about how the festivity could be related to the problem of economic development of the Basque country. So then I come back to the problem created by Basque activists that I mentioned in the outset, but I did not develop. I did not mention further. And according to these activists, during, let's say, the end of the end of the 60s, up to the beginning of the present century, that is to say, during 40 years, the Basque activists were completely opposed to the festivity. Not because of commercialization, but because the festivity was a strong point in favor of the touristification of the Basque Country. They fear that because of the huge amount of people coming to the festivity and the money that the bar and restaurant and hotel and so on would make out of this crowd, that the industrialization of the country, of the Basque Country, would be in jeopardy. So they opposed recently, and sometimes with some bomb put in front of the administration. They were tough, really tough, really tough. And because of that, the debate was not the issue of commercialization against non-commercialization, but how to make the festivity works in favor of the development of the Basque Country. So now they have changed their view and they have understood, I mean the Basque activists, they have understood that they can use the festivity in order to promote their view and to promote a new form of development, not grounded on old-fashioned industry, because before there was an industry in for iron in Bayonne City and other kind of old-fashioned industry. They have abandoned this kind of thing, and instead of that, they say there are peasants providing fresh food, biological food, and so on and so forth, and through the festivities, we are promoting this new approach among the Basque peasants, and this is good for us. So now the Basque activists are in favor of that. They are selling themselves their good, so no problem with commercialization again. And the only thing they will add to that is the following. Their motto is yes to festivity, but yes as well for social fight. In Basque Country, it is bestak bai, ere boroka bai. Yes to the festivity, but we should not forget our fight in order to promote the Basque Country. So that may explain why this commercialization issue doesn't work, because the local opposition was not on that ground, but on different ground, which is just important to understand the transition. The transition was made by the Basque activists against, and then, okay, with the festivity. This is, according to my view, the main point, the main topic, the main transition, so to speak.
Just one more. Does the Basque activist has peñas in the festivities or no? Peñas, the activists. Does they have peñas during the festivities? Like the peñas, the associations. Yeah, the associations. Are they in the festivities as an association?
Yeah, of course, of course. This is the reason why, maybe I can get the device. Yeah. This is the reason why, again, okay. Oops. Okay, this is the reason why I put in gray all the events which are grounded on the Basque festivity. So again, I cannot put everything in this presentation, which was already too long. But if you go back to the festivities in, let's say, in the middle of the 70s, maybe there will be only 3 of them in gray. So the Basque activists were very strong within the association. And through their association, they created this thing, initiation to Basque dance, which is called muchiko. And they try to enlarge number of people dancing this Basque dancing. Then Encierro Chiqui as well come from these activists. And this as well is promoted by activists. This as well, this as well. So you have plenty of things who are now on display during the festivities, which were created by activists entering, in certain respect, the organization committee. They were accepted. And then they proposed to create new activities. So there were, and this is one point which is very important for me in order to make the connection between the cultural element and the economic one. Because the activists were in favor of a given form of economic activity for the development of the country, the economic dimension. But there were as well those who were in favor of cultural element coming from the Basque culture. So they merge in such a respect, this cultural element and economic element, and make a big transition for this reason.
Firstly, I would like to thank you, Professor, and I have a question about sociology of joy. I myself don't think I'm capable of asking about your job because I'm not graduated. I've just finished high school. But you said about sociology of joy, something that says about the good feelings and stuff. I would ask you if you have some books, some articles to recommend to us about this topic, because sociology sometimes can be very critic, even negative. Like the Frankfurt School, the classics, they are sometimes negative about society, and you gave me a different approach of society, a different approach of sociology. So I would ask you to indicate some books, some articles. Thanks.
The answer would be straightforward: no. No, or at least, please give me some information. I found nothing on that, almost nothing. There is, to the best of my knowledge, there are maybe 2 references from a US scholar working on crowd and crowd behavior. And it is the single author that has this kind of ideas in print. He has some few paragraphs about crowds which are gathered by the prospect of having enjoyment. But in that case, he gave only 2 ideas. The first one is related to religious joy, which is completely out of my topic. And the second one is about crowd joy. And he said, okay, look at Brazilian carnival. That's it. No more than that. I found no reference, not a single one. So I'm afraid I cannot give you any proposal. The best that I could say, just wait maybe 2 years and look at the final chapter of my book. But for the moment being, there is nothing. Basically, no, this is on a given point, this is fine, because if nobody has written on this topic, I can be free to explain what I have in mind without bothering with the ideas put forward by the other. Nice. But at the same time, I have no guidelines. I am obliged to go by my own way, or you are going to your own way, but there is no specific ideas to offer. The only one that I have provided so far here is the fact that in the case that I am studying, first, there is no social divide. And this no social divide is explained, and this is something very important when you discuss with the people in the street. This is explained by the fact that, I will try to find one, okay, this is quite easy. As you see, all the people are same clothes. They are white with a red scarf. This there, white and red scarf, and maybe they have something cinta. Yeah. So everybody, in certain respect, is put in the same clothes. That means that there is no, I would say, social divide with people very well dressed and the other which are not very well dressed. There is kind of community which is offered by this single way to dress during the festivity. And if you go to the festivities, this is very strong, because the day before, nobody will dare to wear this kind of thing. And the day after, nobody will wear this kind of thing. This is just for the festivity. So there is kind of unity which is offered. This is the first point. No social divide, and this opened the way to full joy, so to speak. And then the second point that I propose, this is a starting point, is to consider in a Simmelian way, Georges Simmel, the sociologist, how pleasure comes to the people. And my suggestion is to follow the idea that there is a sociology of senses. The ear, the seeing, the food, the fact that you are confronted to the other people, you have to move within the crowd. All this is a way to enjoy the crowd, to enjoy the participation of the crowd, and as well to offer to the other an enjoyment, your own enjoyment as an addition to their own enjoyment. Maybe there is a further point that should be added, and I am guilty, I should have put that before. In the case of the festivity here, at the end of the festivity, there is a corso. That you say there are people creating some specific decoration, and they are on a car, and they are traveling through the city, which is maybe in certain respects similar to what is the key point of Rio Carnival or the other. But this is not very important in the present case. And that means that during the festivity here, this is a street festivity in which you are an actor of the festivity because you are in the street. There is no separation between those who are making action and those who are just looking at the action. When you are in the street, you are an actor and a spectator in the same time. So there is something which is specific, completely different from music festivals or the way people look at the blocos and the music and the dance offered by Rio de Janeiro, Carnival and so on, or Salvador as well. You don't have this kind. Only 20% of the people who answered our survey said that they are going to see the corso. So you can suppress the corso, which is declining, by the way. You can suppress that, and that will not change the festivity. So again, my proposal, my suggestion to push forward this idea of sociology of joy is related to a given, I would say, social environment. No social divide, no racial divide. Everybody is an actor and a spectator, and everybody is in the street looking at the joy of the other, and so on and so forth. So that will be my starting point. I don't know if I could go much farther than that, but this is my starting point, and as I said, I have no other things to offer to you. Sorry. But maybe if somebody in the room has any idea on that point, I will be very pleased to have any suggestion.
I would like to ask about, you said that there are some tensions between the peñas and the bars and the restaurant concerning the payment of taxes. Is this like a official tension, like do the bars suit the peñas or something like that, or no?
No.
It's like just informal.
There are informal tensions, not formal ones, and they cannot sue, the bar cannot sue the peñas because it is exceptional but legal. That you say, according to the French law, the mayor can give to association during 3 nights a year the possibility to sell alcohol under 18 degrees, that you say they can sell champagne, wine, beer, but not strong alcohol. They can offer these associations the right to sell without paying taxes in 3 days. And the préfet, that is say the high administrative that represents the French state, can offer 2 more days, so 5 days. So it is legal for, there is no legal prosecution behind that. So there is no problem. Nevertheless, when I was a member of the organizing committee of the festivity, they were kind enough to accept my presence in some of their meetings. It is very clear that it is a big problem. And I think that this is something as well quite interesting for this economic sociology of festivity, to understand how the various, the three dimensions of the economy, let's say the mayor, or his representative, the bar and restaurant, market activity, and the association, are trying to find, I would say, an unstable equilibrium. That you say they accept, they negotiate some elements, so that they can find a way to make the festivity sustainable. Because if you are going too far in a given direction, then maybe the festivity will not work. Let me explain that. During a period of time, the equilibrium between the bar and the association was the following. The association were not allowed to sell alcohol during daytime. And more than that, they could open only after 2 o'clock in the night. That is to say, when the bar were closing by law, then the peñas were opening. So in that case, there was no dispute, because one was closing when the other was opening. Fine. So the tension between the bar and the peñas was clear. No problem. But it doesn't work for the municipality. Why that? Because if you open the peñas when the bar are closed, then the festival goers are not going back home. They are just moving from restaurant and bar to peñas. So there will be a lot of people still in the street when it is necessary to clean the streets. If not, it will be a mess. It will be stinking in the morning. So the festivity will be in jeopardy. So they were obliged to make a new equilibrium, saying, okay, everybody will close at 3 o'clock, so that at 5 o'clock the engine, the cars could clean the streets, and then that creates this tension between the bar and the restaurant, because they became competitors for getting the consumption of the crowd. So you understand this is a kind of moving equilibrium according to the constraints that the town hall has to cope with, and this is the kind of situation. But generally, they bargain and they are able to work together. There is no big clash. Even you may have strong clash, but not big clash. In the end, they agree. So they can go on the festivity. Because most of them, I would say, the very large majority of all these people from the town hall, the bar, and the peñas love the city. They are pleased to be there. The festive atmosphere is something very important for all of them. So they wish to maintain the possibility of having the festivity. Notably because they make a lot of money out of that. Don't forget that. There is I would say, an economic basis of this enjoying activity. People spend not much money, about 40 or 50 euros each day, which is significant but not that much, and they enjoy a lot, and the bar and restaurant are making a lot of money, and so on and so forth, and the town hall is happy because the festivity is known all over France, and maybe in some part of Europe, people come from Germany or some other places to come to this festivity. So everybody is happy with the maintenance of the festivity, which explain its duration, I think.
Can I just one more question from our colleague? She was wondering how many elderly people go around, if there are actually many elderly, like older than 65, as
Plenty.
Yeah?
Plenty. I have not put picture, but hey, have a look. These ones are not very young. Graying. No, they are right age, my age. No, anyway, yes, of course. And this is the reason why, and this is the big transition again, but different from the one that I mentioned answering your question. There is a big change in the sense that from the middle of the 90s, the organizing committee decided that it was necessary to put more stress on the day festivity than on the night festivity. So they decide, for example, to close the city to the car so that the festivity can be spread over the city during the daytime, which open up the possibility to create more events and so on and so forth. First. And they create that on purpose to make the festivity again appealing for families and elderlies. So I have no picture here, I have plenty of them in my laptop, but there are many people coming in the daytime festivity who are old people coming with their grandchildren. And from time to time you can find a woman with very, very small babies, just babies on their chest, or on the I don't know what the name of that, the small car for. And even you have people who can't walk, who are on this kind of device necessary for them to walk, to go along the city. So it is very friendly. So due to this friendly atmosphere, there are again a lot of old people coming to the festivity in daytime, but not in nighttime. That makes a clear difference, very, very, very much. Yeah. So this is a success for the president of the committee. He gave me a further interview when I went to Bayonne in October, and I asked him, what is your main and great achievement? Because he is the president of the committee since that period of time, mid of 90s. And he said to me, my great achievement is the fact that, again, the daytime festivity is strong. So it was a goal, and it is a success for him. So many people are coming back. And in order to be a bit more lengthy, it is as well important for them because they have in mind the fact that there is a kind of tradition which is going from the elderly to the younger population. And the idea that you have to learn how to make enjoyment during the festivity is something very strong. So the coming back of the elderly is considered for them as a way to civilize the festivity, to come back to the old good way, the old good tradition of the Basque festivity. So this is something in which, according to which it is very important for them to have these old people coming back to the festivity.
Thank you, Steiner. So you said crowd is a key character, but in the crowd we are anonymous. So you can be ourselves, you can express, you can be it's a place of emotional. So, and it is anonymous, and emotion, you can be also autonomous. So thinking in a Simmel way, George Simmel, money is also autonomous and anonymous. Né? In this party, you need to buy beer, you need to buy the food. Né? Could people take the beer? So I think the money is important to understand in this way of sociology of joy or sociology of emotion. And I also thinking about in the other way as a metaphor, the finance sociology as a stock exchange is also the ground. Money need to boost the economy. Money need to move also in this party. So it's necessary money move, people move. So I was thinking about this relation and emotional money, and it's also interest this generation. The youngest could pay for the festivities, and the others not. And in the same time, the young are more civilized than the soul. It's interest thinking about.
This is a nice idea, of course, to make a connection between the crowd in the city and the crowd in the financial market. Right. And the idea that the flow of joy and the flow of money can be considered together. Thanks for this suggestion. I will try to make something out of that. And okay, I will agree that there is a part of that. Okay, fine. Nevertheless, I would like to make maybe a distinction between the crowd on the financial market and the crowd in the city, because, but maybe you know that better than you. In the financial market, when you add the old-fashioned crowd, because generally now it is automatized, so it's completely different. But at that time, people were trying to make businesses, and maybe they were, in certain respect, competitors, which is not the case here. People are not in a situation where if I get something, the other will not get it. In the contrary, it is a kind of situation in which I get a glass of beer or a glass of vodka or whatever, the other will get it, and I'm pleased to discuss with the people and so on and so forth. So, and this is, I think, one further reason why there is a specific ambiance there, which is different from the ambiance created by, let's say, football. Because there as well, there are people enjoying themselves and so on and so forth. There's a crowd and so on and so forth. Nevertheless, in the case of football matches, then you have those supporting one team and those supporting the other team. That may create feuds between them. Whereas in the case of this sociology of joy during festivities, there is no structural reason to be against a part of the member of the crowd. All of them are enjoying the festivity, and that's it. There is no reason to be adversary or to be opposed by whatever feeling. So that may make some difference, and again, for the moment being, I still think in terms of there is no structural divide, social or racial, or due to the fact that I support a given team and not the other, among these people in the streets. So that makes a special atmosphere, according to my view. But you are right, maybe the movement of money could be a way as well to, should be introduced more in the picture. Because, you know, even economists have some idea of that, in the sense that there are people who are enjoying spending money. And festivities is a time in which you spend maybe a bit more than usual, and the spending of money can be not a relief or a pleasure by itself, but in certain respect, yes. And I'm trying to think at the same time that I'm trying to answer your suggestion. There is something as well which is important, the fact that for the Basque tradition of poteo, you don't pay. You don't pay. I mean, in the beginning of the night, let's say, the one who will be in charge of paying because he has a couch in his pocket, you give money to that person, let's say 30 euros for the night. You get the money from all the group, and then you go to the festivity, and the issue of money is no longer your problem. You have already paid in the couch, and then you ask beer, vodka, whatever, you don't pay. So there is curious feeling that once you have paid for the couch in the beginning, then the money is no longer your problem. That may explain maybe why money is flowing so easily, and why it is not a problem, because for many people, getting the hand in the pocket and giving money maybe is ambivalent, to say the least. yeah, the pain of paying. But in that case, the pain is not that, because you participate with friends to making the couch. And then the owner of the couch, the owner of the couch, pay for the whole group. So the money is no longer a problem. But anyway, you are right. Something should be done in that direction.
From that perspective, it has to do with my first question, because of that transition and kind of a natural competition between peñas. I was talking to my colleague here about this, because we are, as a peña over there, you are competing from people. Like, you want to see as the best peña of the festival, maybe. Maybe there's a natural competition between them or something like this.
I don't think so. I have no idea that any people that I interviewed were thinking that way, because there are such a huge crowd that nobody will check what you are doing. Maybe some people, but
just
no competition to be the largest.
Give me the beer and that's okay, right?
Yeah, and maybe you may have this in the fact that many times people can offer you a drink. Offering something is quite common during the festivities, because this is an enjoyment, and when you enjoy, you are large, you offer something to your friends, even if this is somebody that you meet for the first time during the moment. But this may happen, but a kind of competition between people paying for the other doesn't exist so far as I know. No. Because too much people, too complicated to make this kind of rivalry between these people. Let's say, let's suppose that this is a bar for getting beer. So when you come in these very important places, which there are so many people, there is quite often 7 rows of people before you can get an access to the bar. So maybe you discuss with them, you can try, you make your way, but you can't compete to buying more beer or more alcohol than the other. It doesn't work. So far as I know, again.
Ok, vou falar no microfone. Muito obrigado a presença de todos. A gente quer tirar uma foto com vocês aqui. Pode ser? É para capes. E depois a gente segue para um rap aqui, não é? Tainara? Ah, foram para o Madeiro, aqui embaixo. Ok.
O mundo precisa de gente que pulsa,
Que coloca a mão na massa e faz a diferença.
que encara a adversidade e constrói soluções. Hora para encontrar. Porque quando pulsa a vontade de criar, a obstinação de realizar e o desejo de conquistar, criamos novas oportunidades.
Descobrimos novas formas de superar desafios. E é isso que nos faz evoluir.
Em cada um de nós, pulsa a vontade de fazer. E juntos, fazemos. Pulsamos transformação. Nascemos do desejo de ir além.
Da necessidade de empreender e desenhar nosso próprio futuro.
Compartilhamos ideias e mudamos relações e culturas. Criamos o novo. Crescemos, evoluímos e não paramos de pulsar inovação. É assim que vamos continuar fazendo uma marca inspiradora. Porque somos a IMED.
Somos emoção,
Vibração,
energia,
ação,
movimento,
participação,
transformação, sentido,
sentimento,
colaboração,
oportunidades, crescimento, liderança, pertencimento, revolução, inspiração.
sensibilidade.
Pulsamos juntos.
E estamos sempre apenas começando. Afinal, é preciso inspirar a mudança.
Porque viemos e vivemos para fazer.
IMED. Pulse para transformar.